to welcome you all to the first session of the third day of the International Faculty Development Program titled Legal Research and Pedagogy in Changing Era. I know you all are eagerly waiting for the first session that's going to be carried out by Dr. Lawwellman P, Professor, Govt Law College, Calicut, on the topic Research Design in Qualitative and Quantitative Legal Research. I'm very happy to welcome Dr. Lawwellman to the International Faculty Development Program titled Dr. Lawwellman holds an LLM in intellectual property from Cochin University and has also done MA in criminology from MS University. He has completed his PhD in intellectual property from National Law School Bank in courts in Wayanad. Later, he worked as assistant manager legal at Federal Bank Cochin and as manager legal at Bank of Baroda, Mumbai. He is currently working as professor, Govt Law College, Calicut. He is currently the member of Board of Studies Law at University of Calicut and Kannur University. He is also an expert member in Institutional Innovation Council at National Institute of Technology. Once again, I welcome all faculty members, research scholars, professionals, and other participants to this international FDP. I wish you all the best to the participants. And sir.
Thank you, Mr. Korean, for a generous introduction. It is not for the first time that we meet, but I think we met only online.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. So I think I am audible and visible, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. These are some of the pleasantries we will have to exchange before we start the session in an online mode. So for me, joining a program in Al-Azhar College is not a very a strange or unfamiliar affair. Starting from the principal, Dr. Lovely Paulus, and many of the faculty members are people familiar to me. So first of all, I would express my gratitude for the invitation to interact with a CREAM group on a topic which is relevant, especially in a career advancement situation. It's not that research methodology is not important otherwise, but it's of utmost importance when it comes to the scheme of things for career advancement as put in place by UGC and other regulatory authorities. So happy to see you all, or rather, perceive you all online. Hi from my side. I'm Lawwellman. I teach in Govt Law College, Calicut. Yeah, and that's it about me. So I think we can go for we'll go directly for the discussions. And one or two formalities more. You can interrupt at any point of time. You can interrupt for the purpose of asking doubts, making clarifications, or putting across your own ideas. I don't consider the people here as just one-sided listeners. So whatever I speak, you will mug up. That's not the kind of thing that's going to be. It should be interactive. And if you are a bit hesitant to use your unmute and speak, you can just have your questions and your thoughts in the chat box also. So please make this interactive. So what I'll do is I've got some slides, I've got some materials. I'll share those. May not be throughout, but at many point of time, I'll have to have. I think my slides are visible, right? Yeah. So I invite your attention to the slides also. So to put things in perspective, to start our discussion, I've got two sentences. Rather, these are some of the definitions which I thought will be useful to start the discussion. So we'll definitely ask the question, what is a research? What is a research? It's a thought you are already into for the last couple of days. And I thought it won't be a problem for you to take my participants through this question. Research is a systematic search in pursuit of knowledge. Research is a search in pursuit of systematic knowledge. And that's a very short statement, too general and abstract, that may not make full sense of what research is, as far as our discussion is concerned. Going for a better sentence on research as to what research is and what are the steps involved in the research, we can say that research is the careful, diligent, and exhaustive investigation. We'll go once again. Research is the careful, diligent, and exhaustive investigation of a specific subject matter. Of a specific subject matter with a view to knowing the truth and making original contribution in the existing stock of knowledge. Let us just understand and digest, I would say, digest the statement. Research is the careful, diligent, and exhaustive investigation. So it's a careful and systematic study. It's a diligent study, careful study. It's an exhaustive, comprehensive study, investigation of a specific subject matter, or the specific subject matter selected by the researcher with a view to knowing the truth. And the next part is of added importance to me, making original contribution in the existing stock of knowledge. We are studying an area systematically. Our aim is to make contribution to the existing stock of knowledge. So this is a very new area which nobody has laid his or her hands on, and we are doing a fresh study. And we are doing the study in a systematic manner, in a careful manner, in a comprehensive manner. This is the idea. So I would emphasize, I would like to highlight the part that it is an exhaustive and systematic study. Of course, for the purpose of acquiring knowledge, etc. In today's session and the session which I'm going to lead, the thing is going to be like this. How is it going to be? It's a systematic and comprehensive study. So, as I said, I'll be emphasizing on what is systematic. What is systematic? Or rather, we will ask a question, how a study can be, how a research study can be conducted in a systematic manner. So our whole emphasis for the session for the next 2 hours or so will be on the word systematic. That careful and systematic way of studying something. You have mainly two or three, you can say, ways in which you may systematically study a subject matter, because you are undertaking, or we are undertaking, a research or study systematically. And we have different ways of planning it, and there are various ways of executing it. And your plan of action, a researcher's plan of action for conducting the research, for conducting the research is known as research design. Research design. You're designing something, you're planning something as a researcher. How to conduct the study. Even Government of India plans, you have a planning commission, you have 5-year plans. Many of the organizations have got planning departments. So planning an important aspect. So, or you are constructing a house, for example, you are going to going for shopping in a mall. You'll definitely make some, may not be very formal kind of plan, but definitely we are supposed to have some kind of plans. Economic planning, you understand. Family planning also is there. So there are different kinds of planning. So planning is of importance, especially when it comes to a systematic study. The kind of study that is expected is a systematic study. Definitely planning is of utmost importance. So how is planning happening? We'll draw an analogy with an architect. When I constructed my house, you also might have done as I did. I approached an architect. To have a proper plan. A proper plan about the structure, the electric connections in each of the rooms, the plumbing, plumbing strategies in each of the, in each of these, each of the rooms and each of the places, how the pipes should be laid and how it should be in the bathroom, how it should be connected to, washing, area and all those. So what was the help? What did that particular thing, help me, and how did that particular thing help me? I did not have to reconstruct or demolish a particular path and reconstruct any of the paths. That really helped me a lot. I need not have to put an extra effort for reconstructing some of the parts, some of the walls, etc. And I could do it with economy in the sense, whenever you redo something, it creates a kind of irritation in your mind, and you'll have to spend money for that, human effort for that, and time for that, all those. So as a person planned very well, you can execute things very well, and it should be planned by a person. I'm talking about the architect. It is planned by a person who has got experience and knowledge about different ways of construction and building. He's an expert in that. He has got a degree over that. He has got a lot of experience in that. So I approach a person of that sort, an expert, and he meticulously plans it. He draws very many things. He gives drawings of each of the structural areas. He gives the holistic structural area. He gives the plumbing design in each of the rooms and each of the bathrooms. He's giving electric drawings in each of the walls in each of the rooms. So this does help me a lot about. And please note, this can be done by an expert only, and it requires a lot of careful attention paid to this. And here we'll draw an analogy between this architectural planning and research design. Research design is a systematic planning for conducting a research. Systematic planning for conducting a research. Yeah. So now, how we are going to do it? We have got different methods for that. For example, you have quantitative methods, you have qualitative methods, and you have mixed methods also. When the organizers called me to invite Mr. Your camera is on and some chappals etc. appears in the yeah, that's okay. So when the organizers asked me to speak about research design, they wanted me to specifically speak about qualitative and quantitative research designs. It means, let's make sense of it, how to plan a qualitative research study, how to plan a quantitative research study. That's a question. How to plan a mixed method research study. So you are conducting a research, you are a researcher, you have already selected a topic, you know the tools adopted for this, all those. And when I just flipped through the earlier sessions, I could see that you had sessions on sessions on literature review, you had sessions on what is research, you have sessions on tools of material collection, etc., all those. And here we will understand how to plan a qualitative research, how to plan a quantitative research, how to plan a mixed method research. Though I've been asked to speak about the first two, qualitative and quantitative, I think it is imperative on my part to mention something about mixed methods also. Because ultimately, when you speak about research, it is not that a particular method that matters, but you should be ensuring as a researcher that an effective and appropriate, adequate study is conducted as a researcher, and you have reported outcomes. If the research is not properly planned and designed, if the process is properly controlled and ultimately taken to a culmination point, your research will be a flawed research. And that's the reason why research design or research planning becomes a very important part in the research process. Or rather, you are envisioning the whole research process. Though it may not be possible, that's my experience, it may not be possible for one to foresee up to the last full stop of the research report. It may not be possible. It will definitely possible for us to have a plan. Only if you have a proper plan, you will be able to change it if it is required at any point of time. It's not that plan should always be concrete. At any point, if you feel that this plan doesn't work the way you wanted it to work, you will be, as a researcher, you can make changes in the research design. But it will depend on how much expertise you have, how much knowledge you have in the research methodology. Will tell you, will you have to change the research design at any future point of time or not. So having a proper understanding of different research methodology will definitely help you to have a proper research plan, so that you can do it without in a systematic way, in a diligent way, and in a comprehensive way. And that's the reason why I've got this particular sentence. Now, going further with this, I'll just want the participants to think about an apple, because research methodology is an area which can be understood very dryly or in a different way also. I would like the researchers to think, the participants here, the faculty members, to think about an apple. You might think that what is this, what the apple, the great apple, has to do in the research methodology process. You have an apple available to you, and think about different possibilities with an apple. Definitely, I'll take this to research methodology and research design. Don't think that I'm just wandering around. Just what are the different possibilities with an apple? If you are a chef, you will think about different dishes and juices that can be made of an apple. If you're a member of faculty, from biology or any other, if you are a nutritionist or dietitian, you might write an article on nutritional values of an apple. If you are a novelist who is trying to revisit Bible, you might place the Adam's apple in the context, and you might write a story or come out with a poem. Or if you are a member of faculty, you might write something on that, and you will publish in a corpus, in text, in a journal or UGC Catalyst journal, and you'll try it for your career advancement. My point here is, a subject matter can be perceived and taken to a culmination point in different ways by different people. That will depend on your worldview. That's an important thing which will determine the way in which you plan your research. The way in which you will plan your research. Who are you and how do you perceive the world? What is the paradigm you are looking while doing a research study? Who are you? What's your view? And how do you perceive? All these are important considerations while deciding how are you going to plan it. The way a chef plans the possibility with an apple, and the process involved there, the strategies involved there, the tools involved there are definitely different when you consider a dietitian. A dietitian will consider go with this subject matter called apple in a very different way. He will conduct perhaps some clinical laboratory studies. He'll try about the nutritional values for that. He might conduct a study, and ultimately the person will say that this is good for skin, or if you take this, it will prevent cancer, or it's good for you to keep you keep you in good humor. All those. So I'm drawing an analogy with this. When you have a subject matter to conduct your research, it's like an apple which I talked about, which you can think about. And how are you going to deal with? Will depend on your worldview. What's the strategy you are going to adopt for conducting a research will depend on what worldview you have and how you are going to go about with it. And it will also depend on how we are going to go. Will determine the tools you are going to use. A dietitian would use something in a laboratory. A teacher would use a pen and paper and a laptop and some printer for printing out whatever that is prepared. A chef will use a different strategy, and the tools used also will be different. And with this, we'll go for another material which I'll share with the esteemed audience. Now, I think the slide is visible. Is the slide visible? Yeah. Isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. So now we are going to talk about the selection of a research design. There are 3 types of research design. Now we'll make it more what do you call it? Systematic and specific. There is possibilities of 3 research designs that is expected to experience by people over. First one is qualitative research. as you can see on screen. The second one is quantitative research. And third one is mixed method research. Planning for research or research design can be of three types: qualitative, quantitative, and mixed method research. And please note, whatever we discuss here will be pertaining to social science research and not general science or scientific, otherwise we call it as science. So when it comes to qualitative research design, research is framed in terms of words, open-ended questions and responses, and data collecting using instruments to explore and understand the meaning individuals or group ascribe to social or human problem. Now, let us understand this with some examples. We cannot go on reading the theory, but we will have to consider this. And I would request answers or responses from the participants also. Backwardness in the society could be considered as a problem. Can't it be considered this as a problem, human problem, or a social problem? Backwardness. Dowry could be considered as a problem. Lack of information could be considered a problem. Lack of access to information could be considered as a problem. So while you are, and when you are about to go for a study as a researcher, and when you're planning, you're at the earlier stage of your research, you have selected a topic, you have selected a hypothesis or research questions, you've selected, you have got materials, all those. You're at this stage, you have finalized your title. That's a stage at which we are as a researcher. So if you're adopting, should you adopt qualitative research? Should you adopt quantitative research? Should you adopt mixed method research? Will depend on very many factors. But before doing that, whether to adopt first one, or whether to prefer second one, or whether to go for the third one, can be decided only if you have a proper understanding about the first, second, and the third. In other words, unless you know what qualitative research is, unless you know what quantitative research is, unless you know what mixed method research is, you may not be able to choose one among from these three. So the first, what we are going to do as a first attempt is to understand briefly what quantitative research is, what qualitative research is, what mixed method research is. Then only you will be able to select most appropriate one for your study. So it's in this context that I was speaking about qualitative research. Qualitative research is framed in terms of words. The first thought that would arise in your mind is, how else can we frame terms of research? But what we'll have to understand is, understand this in contradistinction with numbers. In certain situations, you'll be able to carry out your study by looking at the numbers that is available. You're collecting data from people, you're adopting a survey, you have a questionnaire, you have developed a questionnaire, you've administered the questionnaire, and you get numbers. Out of this sample, these many people have responded in this fashion. So out of 500 people you have studied, 300 have felt that EWS is not useful, cannot be allowed within the context of the Constitution. So you'll speak in terms of numbers. Whereas qualitative research will not speak in terms of numbers, It will speak in terms of words. It would look at the purpose of reservation. Please consider the example of EWS, which is something which was discussed and which is still have got people at least on two sides, the supporters of it and the opposers of it. So if you are going to study the area of the EWS, which is returning to the Constitution very recently, and which was adjudicated and verified as a judicial review by the Supreme Court. And if you say that these many people have felt that it cannot exist in the context of constitutional framework, that could be your outcome. Or you can say that the purpose of purpose of reservation, that's the area in which you can include a EWS. What's the purpose of reservation? If you think, what's the purpose of reservation? And can anybody respond to this, please? What's the purpose of reservation? If you can unmute and speak. It should be interactive. That's the reason why I've already thought of a few issues that can be discussed, so as well as to make us understand different methods of research design. What's the purpose of reservation? Could you just interact? Could you just speak out or type in the chat box? What's the purpose of reservation? I thought of bringing in EWS. I thought of bringing in dowry prohibition, etc. Could somebody respond to this, please? Can I? Yeah, Ms. Parvati says to uplift the underprivileged, to bring socially disadvantaged the mainstream of society, bring unequals on a pedestal. Yeah, great. Thank you, Mr. Alex Smithman. Thank you, Ms. Parvati. Yeah, to bring all at a uniform level. Yeah, great. Thank you for the response. I'm encouraged rather. Ensure proper representation in all fields for marginalized. That is another dimension which was argued by Dr. Professor Mohan Gopal before the court. Representation. Yeah. Now, we have decided. Thank you for the responses. Please keep this in mind. This will be useful when we go further with our discussion as to the kind of research design to ensure that equal representation. Ms. Sankita is speaking about that. To improve social and education status of underprivileged. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that. So when you consider this, how to conduct a study in the area of EWS? You have decided to go with the research because it is of recent. It is included in the Constitution recently, and no much study has been conducted in this particular area. And you're just verifying whether EWS is bringing with it a new dimension to the reservation. Your thinking is like this as a researcher. I've decided to go like this. I think this would be appropriate. Please be together so that and respond so that we can discuss. We can just think about. We'll have we'll just frame research design for EWS. So you can just think so far hitherto reservation was considered for the purpose of equalizing or uniformizing unequals, to uplifting the underprivileged, to uplift the socially backward, to uplift the economically backward, etc. And please consider for the time being that the dimension that reservation is for the purpose of ensuring representation. But please do understand, please be Please, we'll go by an understanding that it is considered by the Constitution, especially when it comes to 16 clause 4. It says that backward classes adequately represent. It says that. But for the, let's think for a time being, whether declaring constitutionality of EWS, whether it is bringing about a new dimension, new constitutional dimension to what do you call, to constitutional dimension to reservation. So we will have to conduct this study. We will have to conduct this study. And how will you conduct the study? To conduct the study, you will have to do it carefully, diligently, and systematically. That's what the definition tells us, and that is an accepted definition world over. That's out of experience. How do you conduct a systematic study to study about this particular question? To study about this question. Now, whether EWS has added new constitutional dimension to reservation. Will it be a qualitative research? Will it be a quantitative research? Will it be a mixed method research? Oh, 1 second. Can it be conducted as a qualitative research? Can it be conducted as a quantitative research? Or should we devise and use mixed method research for conducting this? In order to ensure that, we will have to know, mixed method research. Now, what we are going to do, thank you, Ms. Manish, Mr. Paul, to answering this. And when we say it's mixed method, or if we say this is qualitative method, or you can say it could be quantitative method, but there should be that decision should be based on reasons, based on your understanding, based on your expertise in the area of research. You should be aware about the process of research, the research methods, and the research methodology. It should be justified. Or there may be situations where you can solve a problem, you can approach a problem in different ways. It's like directing a film. The same subject can be approached by different people in different ways. Same question can be approached by someone in a qualitative way in certain situations. May not be possible always, but in certain situations, I might prefer a qualitative research approach. Then my research design will be accordingly framed. If I, as a person, if I am familiar with quantitative method, as people from non-mathematics area, non-statistics area, the law people might prefer qualitative research. Need not be always, but maybe. When I attended 1 or 2 research methodology programs which involve a lot of statistics, I felt so out of water because I was not familiar with those methods and methodologies. And some people might go for mixed method research. So qualitative research is in terms of words, in the sense that Constitution, EWS, or new amendment in the form of EWS 16.6 adds a new dimension to the constitutional vision of reservation, that the answer you might reach is this: it is adding a new dimension as to ensure representation for the backward class. Now, But if you're undertaking a quantitative research, you might conduct a research among very many people. You will have a universe, which you talked about yesterday. When I flipped through the sessions, I could find that. You will have a universe. A universe cannot be studied as a whole. You will have a representative sample. You have different sampling methods, which I'm sure that you're familiarized yesterday. And you might study 1,000 people or 500 people. It will depend on how big is your sample. It will depend on the time that is available at your disposal, the human power that is available at your disposal, the funding that is available to you, and upon very many factors. And you might study about among 1,000 people, and you might come out with certain numbers and statistics. Out of these many people felt, out of 1,000, 785 people thought that it added a new dimension. And out of 795 people, 700 people felt that the new dimension that is added is the representation angle. Then you'll be speaking in terms of numbers. So let's read further so that we'll understand it further. In the case of qualitative research, research is framed in terms of using words, open-ended questions and responses. Open-ended questions. And yesterday, we have understood that questions could be structured, semi-structured, open-ended, etc. Right? And data collection using instruments to explore and understand the meaning of individuals or groups ascribed to social or human problem. So qualitative research is for the purpose of understanding a phenomena. You do not have much of the expertise already in the area. You are trying to understand this. That's the reason why you have open-ended questions. To have a closed and a structured question, four options you'll be giving, right? To give that, there is an assumption that you already know the area. Then you can very well give 4 options out of that in MCQs. But if you're trying to understand a new area, you might adopt a qualitative research. So qualitative research is framed in terms using words, open-ended questions and responses, and data collecting using instruments to explore. You're not going to assess, you're going to explore and understand. The question you might ask is, what are the purposes of reservation under the Constitution? And understand the meaning individuals or group ascribed to social or human problem, like the inequality in the social inequality. And reservation as a method to undo this social inequality. And whereas, let's just look at the quantitative research. Quantitative research is framed in terms of numbers. Framed in terms of numbers. Closed-ended questions and responses. You already know what the area is, and you're just trying to assess something which is already. What's the purpose of reservation? If you already know that there are 4 purposes of reservation, you will administer that on 1,000 people, and you will take responses from them. And if you're conducting a qualitative research in contradistinction with quantitative research, you will just ask a question without giving options. What are the purposes of reservation? So that it will be open-ended questions and data collection. You'll explore what reservation is. You'll be able to understand. You're giving them one-word answers or sentences. It could be semi-structured also, as you've seen yesterday. That's when it comes to mixed method, etc. So if it is a qualitative research, You'll use open-ended questions and responses, data collection using instruments to explore and understand the meaning of individuals or groups, and ascribe to a social or a human problem. Whereas in the case of quantitative research, you have an understanding about the area already. You're not just exploring, but you're assessing. And just look at the mixed method research. Research approach to into inquiry involves collecting both qualitative and quantitative data, integrating the two forms of data, and using distinct designs that may involve philosophical assumptions and theoretical framework. Involve philosophical assumptions and theoretical frameworks. You are adopting both qualitative, which is in terms of words, and quantitative. See, for example, you will ask the question, what are the purposes of reservation? That will be conducted in a qualitative way, so that you explore and understand what are the advantages of reservation. Then you will go to study in a mixed method, which among these four advantages of reservation, which is the most preferred one, which is being advocated by EWS system. So two questions. First part is qualitative, and second part is quantitative, which is advocated or which according to some of the people is advocated by the EWS system, which will speak in terms of numbers. So both words and numbers, both data and numbers, both statistics and statistics and words. Now, as we have three different methods, there are three approaches possible, as we have understood. And among these, which one are we going to adopt? That's a question. And that's the purpose of this particular session. There are three components to be considered when determining a research design. We decide as a researcher, you decide or we should decide, I'll go for qualitative research, or I will go for quantitative research, or I'll go for a mixed method research. Some of the participants here said it's mixed method research. This will depend on consideration of three main factors. Maybe 4 and 5 are there, but there are three main factors. What are those three main factors that will influence your decision as to the kind of research you are going to undertake, the approach you are going to take? Three components to be considered. What are the three components? The first one is philosophical worldview or assumptions. Philosophical worldview. In this, you have positivistic worldview, post-positivistic worldview, you can say. You have constructivist worldview. You have transformative worldview. You have pragmatic worldview. How can we make sense of this? How can we make sense of this? See, let's go back to the Apple example. Whether you are going to look at Apple as a footstep, whether you are going to look at Apple as a subject matter for a novel which is speaking about the sin of human beings based on Bible, or whether you are going to look this as an material for article writing and to publish it in the UGC careless journal, or whether you are going to look at it from the point of view of a dietitian, will depend on your worldview. And the method you are going to adopt, qualitative, quantitative, or mixed method research, will depend on your worldview, your philosophical worldview. Philosophical might not always think that the philosophy as we usually understand, or this will depend on your outlook. In some of the books, the word used is paradigm. What is your perspective as to the paradigm? what is going to be our perspective, and how we are going to study, the methodology you are going to use, the approach you are going to adopt will depend on your worldview. And there are 3 or 4 worldviews that are identified and isolated by the people who are interested in research methodology. One is post-positivist worldview. Another one is constructivist. Another one is transformative. Another one is pragmatic. It may not be possible for us to go to these details always, but I'll make sense of 1 or 2. A transformative worldview is you're looking at things to transform it. To talk in the context of legal research, you might understand some of the drawbacks which is already existing in a particular law. Then you will suggest for, you are intending to suggest for a law reform. Here, it may be useful for a mixed method research. It may be useful for a mixed method research. Transformative. You will have both qualitative and quantitative data required for this. Whereas positivistic, post-positivistic would mean what is after positivistic view. Positivism would mean as it is. Here, post-positivism would tell us knowledge is not always final. There is possibility of going further with the knowledge, There is a possibility of adding new dimension to the knowledge you are going to bring in through research. So what it says is positivism will tell us what the already existing knowledge, and you are going to assess it. Whereas in constructivist approach, you will have to adopt a qualitative approach. You will ask the question, what's the purpose of reservation? So that you will construct knowledge. And you might come out with a theory. But here the theory would mean a statement as to reservation has a dimension to a dimension of ensuring representation to backward classes. It's a new theory that is put forth. That is being put forth. You're adding to the knowledge, constructing knowledge. Knowledge can be constructed. And here the approach is inductive. I hope the participants here are aware of different methods of arriving at conclusions. It could be deductive, it could be inductive, or it could be a mixture of induction and deduction. In post-positivistic view, it will be deduction. You already have a statement that reservation has following purposes, and you will assess whether these purposes of reservation is being served or not. So you already have the knowledge given, and you'll be assessing it. That might be through hypothesis. These are the things we will have to keep in mind. Hypothesis. So whether you are going to approach this from this point of view and that point of view will depend on your worldview as well as the nature of subject matter. Am I making sense? Do you have any question to ask? Whether you look at whether the nature of subject matter or whether you look at the subject matter, it will depend on both these. If you are looking at the subject matter from a particular perspective, you might approach it from a particular as a constructivist, or sometimes the nature of subject matter also will be a determinative factor. You will determine what exactly is the purpose of reservation. So that question can be asked as a qualitative researcher or a quantitative researcher. So constructivist researcher will adopt qualitative method. He'll ask a question, she will ask the question, what is the purpose of research? What's a new dimension that is added to the research? Or a person who is inclined towards quantitative research would ask the question, is economic upliftment still relevant? Here the question is assessing something. In the first one, so briefly explain the difference between can you Mr. And I didn't get to who was the one that. So briefly explain the difference between inductive and deductive method and research design. Okay. I was under the presumption that inductive and research method is already known. An inductive method is a method where you are framing a knowledge. You are framing a knowledge, or you are creating a knowledge. You are constructive knowledge. You are constructing a theory. You are constructing a theory. Here, you are inducting something. Induction is you're adding something to it. So the outcome of your research, if it is to induct or create or construct a knowledge, for example, reservation is the purpose of reservation is to ensure the representation of backward classes also. This is already known. Think for a moment, as a researcher, you are finding this. So you are injecting a new knowledge. And if you are considering this in contradistinction, comparison with whether upliftment of economically backward, is this still a relevant criteria for reservation? If you are asking this question, you are asking a question with regard to something which is already known, but you are assessing it and you are coming to a conclusion. So you would say that, yes, this is still relevant. You would say that this is not relevant based on the hypothesis you create, or rather hypothesis you frame. So in the second, assessment of an already existing thing. In the first one, you are injecting something. If you are coming to a finding based on something which is already existing, either yes or no, whatever it is you are taking you are assessing something and reaching a conclusion. So this is direction. It is an assessment of already something known something. Am I making sense? Am I making sense? Dr. Mubarak, am I making sense? I can speak. Or if I speak further about inductive and deductive. Inductive and deductive methods are deductive approaches are two approaches to reach a conclusion, to decision making or conclusion making. In deductive syllogistic logic method of logic. In deductive method, you already have a major premises. In the research context, you can call it as a hypothesis. Based on that, you reach a conclusion. The usual example you find in all the books is this: all men are mortal. All men are mortal. You already have a theory. If you consider this as a theory, please consider this. Understand this is a theory. Yeah. All men are mortal. And you are adding the case of a particular individual. You are assessing whether Mr. X is mortal or not. You come to a conclusion that Mr. X is also mortal. What's happening here? If you consider this as a research, you are verifying this theory, and you are finding fortifies or strengthens the theory, saying that yes, Mr. X is also mortal, and so this theory is verified and it is fortified and strengthened. So you are assessing and verifying an already existing theory. And what's happening in the case of induction? Induction, you do not know what are the different purposes of reservation. You do not know what are the purposes of reservation. You have inadequate knowledge, deficient knowledge. There are certain approaches to this deficiency of knowledge, and that will be understood through literature review, which you already have gone through. What are the deficiency in knowledge? And you would say that EWS, you feel that EWS is adding a new dimension to reservation. And you make a qualitative study. You ask people, you make assessment, you make analysis through different methods. Ultimately, through from the data that is collected, you would say that reservation has a new dimension called representation of backward classes, economically backward classes. So what are you doing? You are adding a new dimension which was not there, or rather you are creating a theory or new dimension to the theory. That is inductive. You are inducting something. I think I'm making sense. Am I? I think I'm making sense. Okay. Now, so this will depend. So we were considering this question, 3 components to be considered when determining a research design. Philosophical worldview. Please go to the Apple example and how do you look at things? Will research. When we talked about EWS, some of the participants here said it's mixed method research. Then your answer should be a considered answer. Should be a considered answer. Am I still there? Am I visible to all of you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are.
But I think my I think there is some issue with it.
Yes, sir.
Is my material visible?
No, sir. No, sir. It's not visible.
It's not visible. I think I will have to. One second, please. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir. Now it is.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think there is. I don't know whether it is at my end or whatever it is. No, it's positive. So it will depend on your perspective, your worldview, whether you're a doctor, dietitian, chef, or faculty, or novelist, and that will be a deciding factor, determining factor in determining the question whether you're going for the qualitative research design or quantitative research design or mixed research design. Once the nature of research design, please emphasize the word nature of research design is fixed, or rather you have decided to go for a dish or a juice based on the apple. Once it is decided, your process of conducting that will obviously be different. A research design related to the worldview. You already have a worldview. Your approach, we can call it as an approach paradigm. Your approach is to make a juice. Your approach is to understand the nutritional value. Your approach is to write a novel based on the apple. Your approach is to to go for an article based on that, and the UGC reviewed article, UGC reviewed journal. So once your approach is decided, qualitative, quantitative, or mixed method, you have strategies for that. A research strategy related to the worldview. You have already decided a worldview. If it is quantitative, if you're going for a quantitative research, you will go for things like experiments or surveys. Experiments and surveys. I've just put one, and surveys, for example, surveys perhaps. And you will come out with numbers. If it is a qualitative research, if your approach is qualitative, you will try to understand in terms of words. And if it is mixed method research, mixed method, it could be sequential or concurrent. I may have to make sense of this. Sequential would mean the first part of your research might have qualitative aspect, then the second part might have quantitative aspect. So that is called sequential. Start with qualitative, then goes to quantitative. Or it could be starting with quantitative, then going to qualitative. Or the mixed method research could be concurrent also. You will be using both methods concurrently. You'll be using both the methods concurrently. So surveys, experiments, all this. Now, once that's also decided, then you have specific tools for this. If you have decided to go for a juice, then the tool you might use is knife and a mixer, we call it as. But if you're a novelist, your approach and the tools you use would be a laptop, printer, and of course, you will be typing it or you'll be writing it down. The tools you use also would differ. So the whole thing depends on your view and also the nature of question. Nature of question, and also, please note, and also the things you are familiar with. Unless you are familiar with the chef activities, unless you are a good cook, put in simple words, you will never approach that if you do not know how to cook or how to make juice. If you are not a faculty member, if you're not familiar with academic writing, which you are going to understand in the afternoon session, you will not be able to have that as approach. So your knowledge about the approach, nature of question, and your worldview. Three things. I'll repeat: your worldview, nature of questions, and familiarity with the methods. Familiarity with the approach will decide nature of your research design. I think we made sense of that. 4 worldviews are possible, then post-positive, you are in positivism, post-positivistic approach, you will be determining something. Reductionism, that is deduction from something to something. Statistical analysis, theory verification, empirical observation and measurement. This is quantitative. I invite your attention to this. This is quantitative. You're determining something, whether it is still relevant. You're verifying the theory. You're using statistical analysis based on numbers. You have empirical observation and measurement. Whereas, go for this. Just think about this. You're just trying to understand whether EW has added a new dimension to reservation. You're trying to understand multiple participant meanings. So you'll ask very many different people. Some might say, as many of our participants have already said, to undo the inequality, to uplift the socially backward, to uplift the economically backward. And when you ask these questions, you might also get an answer saying that it is to ensure representation of backward classes. So this is social and historical construct. So why reservation is justified? Then you'll have to understand from social and historical consideration. Then you will add a new dimension to the theory relating to reservation. The theory you generate is another dimension of reservation is to ensure representation of backward classes. This is constructivism, and there the method uses qualitative. You're not on numbers. Your method is not statistical analysis. You will construct data, you will try to understand and comprehend the data. And whereas transformative is change oriented. If you're going for a legal reform research, whether you require any change in ADR laws so as to include mediation also within it, because you do not have a mediation law in India. So whether ADR laws are in a proper form in India or not, you'll have to have qualitative and quantitative approach, and you will transform. So these are the different things you can think about and different possibilities. So if you're going further with this, so let us be familiar with the strategies. First one is your worldview. You have decided what to do, and in this you are just trying to understand the strategies possible, but that will be just depend on what approach you have already adopted. Experimental designs, non-experimental designs such as service, quantitative. Whereas qualitative, it is narrative research, phenomenology, ethnographics, grounded theory studies, case studies. I'm sure that participants know what a case study is. And in the case of mixed method, it's sequential. You're using both. First qualitative, then quantitative, then you are completing the research, or you will go for qualitative and then otherwise, or you will be using it concurrently. It could be sequential, concurrent, or transformative. Now, once you have decided your worldview and the approach to be taken, and once you've decided the strategies to be adopted, experimental or non-experimental or narrative, then you will have different methods. So worldview or paradigm at the highest level. Once it is decided, then you come to the strategies, then you come to the methods. Please understand this once again. Paradigm or worldview at the largest level, the highest level. Once it is decided, then you have certain strategies which will be something like fixed. You already have some fixed strategies. You will select one among them, and then that strategy is also decided. Then you have methods. And let's make sense of those methods. See, statistical analysis. In the first column, last but one, statistical analysis, which can be easily understood and which can be easily, which can be easily explained and understood. Look at the mixed method. In mixed method, see the similar thing which is available there is statistical and text analysis. You have text analysis and statistical because it's mixed method. And look at the fourth one in the last column, text and image analysis only. So in the quantitative, you have statistical analysis only. In the qualitative method, you have text analysis only. And in mixed method, you have both. That's the reason why it is called as mixed method. So if you look at each of these columns, I think you can make some sense of this. So look at the last column. In quantitative research, you have statistical interpretation. And the last one, you have theme pattern interpretation. Statistical interpretation will be based on numbers. Theme or pattern interpretation will be in terms of words. You're creating a new theory. And mixed method at the center, look at the last one, across database interpretation. Now, distinguishing the three types of designs for research. It may not be possible for us to explain and understand each of these columns, which might be possible, but it will be time-consuming affair. Let's look at one or two columns only. Look at the third one. Look at the third one. Employ these methods and open-ended questions, emerging approaches, text or data images. Qualitative. What is the method that is employed? The third consideration. So what is the method employed? In qualitative open-ended questions, you'll ask a question. What's the new dimension to research which is brought about by EWS? Open-ended questions, emerging approaches, text or image data. And in quantitative, you'll ask a question, closed-ended questions. Which among the following is an obsolete dimension of reservation? You might ask this question. What is the dimension that is obsolete when it comes to reservation? You will have four options perhaps. Uplifting the socially unequal, uplifting the economically unequal, uplifting the backward, or you will have another option. That will be closed-ended. Closed-ended would mean, as you might already know, you already have four options and you have only four options. You cannot have an option which is not there in this. So that is closed-ended. Closed-ended. I think that's clear. Whereas open-ended is what are the purpose of reservation? You are not structured, is not closed-ended. You can give any answer you require as a person responding to it as a part of the sample. And in mixed method, you have both open-ended questions and closed-ended questions. Sometimes you might have seen in a questionnaire that you have four options and you can say others, right, you might say. If you go to Google Forms, as a bit advanced kind of researcher, new generation researcher, you can make different kinds of questions, open-ended questions, MCQ questions, you can have semi-structured questions. All these are available in Google Forms. So that will depend on what kind of approach you have already taken. Your worldview, your strategy, then that will, and your worldview and strategy will decide your method for this. So that's a quite lengthy one. We may not spend much time on it. In fact, we should be considering each one of these, but it will definitely take some maybe hours for this, hours to understand each of these diagrams. Now, coming to the idea of literature review. We may not spend much time on this, but we need to understand that even the way in which you conduct literature review can also be different depending on your research design, your approach. Whether it is the way in which you conduct literature review for a qualitative study will be different from the way in which you conduct the literature review for a quantitative study. And there will be yet another approach if you're going with mixed approach. And I think that's the only point we may have to understand from this, how to do use literature. That will depend on very many things. And please look at this literature review for a qualitative study. The literature is used to frame the problem in the introduction of the study. That is the case in both qualitative and quantitative. The literature is presented in a separate section as a review of literature. The literature is presented in the study at the end. It becomes a basis for comparing and contrasting findings of qualitative study in terms of theory. And there are considerations you should have while planning literature review for qualitative, quantitative, and mixed method. And please do understand, many of the steps are similar and one of the same, identical, but there are differences also. In a qualitative study, use of literature sparingly in the beginning in order to convey an inductive design, unless the design type requires a substantial. In fact, you may have to consider this with some examples, but that'll be a time-consuming affair. That's a challenge I have now. Each of these will have to be considered in the light of some examples, or rather, I'll just convey the meaning. I'll convey the idea that the literature review in a qualitative research will be different from quantitative and mixed method research. That's the idea I would convey. The use of theory, types of variables used. Another consideration is, apart from literature review, the use of theory. How a theory is a statement about something, like reservation has this particular purpose. That also could be considered as a theory. It need not be, it could be a theory of jurisprudence, or it could be a theory which says that, have you heard of a theory of theory about the behavior of people in cyber world and in the actual world? The way in which the people behave in cyberspace is different from the way in which the people behave in a real world, and there are theories based on that. And if you are verifying the theory, then you will be doing a qualitative research. Quantitative research. If you are adding new dimension to the theory, you'll have to go for a qualitative study. Quantitative theory, forms of quantitative theory. I'm just taking my researchers through this. In fact, I may not be conveying the full idea, but I'm just taking you through this. Theories in quantitative studies, ontology, etc. This is for social sciences generally, which can be the approach for law also. There could be and type of theory used in qualitative research. There are ethical questions. Yeah, this could be a format. This could be a format for qualitative or constructionist interpretative study. First of all, you have introduction. There are different approaches, different ways in which you might write an introduction, depending upon the nature of your study, whether it's qualitative, quantitative, or mixed. Statement of the problem, you'll have to include that in the introduction, including deficiencies in the literature and relevance of the study for the audiences. Like just consider the question: is there any connection between the hundi offerings available in any of the in churches and mosques and temples, and the bribery that is prevailing in the society? I'll state the question once again. The area that is being studied is there a relation between the hundis available in most churches and temples and the bribery system, bribery psychology of the citizens. Do you get the question? Is the question that is clear? Of course, this is an academic distinction. No harm is intended. When I sit alone, I think in different ways, wild ways also. This is one of the examples I thought I'll just share with my esteemed audience. So do you think that there is a connection? Do you think there is a connection? The offerings for passing examination, you will make an offering. Then the same thing will be done in the village office also next day. The same thing will be done for the purpose of settling an auction, perhaps, because this is what you're taught by your parents as morality. Carefully, diligently, I should be studying, but this is what. Then you'll have to think about this. At least for the time being, you have a theory, statement of the problem. You'll go for literature review. It may not be possible for you to go for an exhaustive literature review, but you will find some deficiencies. It could be something relating to the purpose of reservation also. It could be something relating to the Uniform Civil Code. It could be something relating to the basis of theoretical foundation of information technology. It could be something relating to a dowry death. It could be something related to anything. So you'll have to state a statement of the problem is to be included in the introduction. The purpose of the study is to be included, and the research questions. And then you'll have to speak about the procedures, philosophical assumptions about qualitative research. You assume, definitely you'll find, if you've read introduction and chapter, you'll definitely find this. And whether that is qualitative or quantitative can be understood, can be perceived by a good researcher by looking at the introduction itself. So that will be prepared like that by a good researcher, and that will be well understood by good researchers also. Philosophical assumptions about qualitative research, qualitative design, the role of the researcher, data collection procedures, strategies for validating finding, proposed narrative structure. And you will also have parts as to anticipated ethical issues, significance of the study, preliminary pilot findings. In big research studies, you will before you go for actual administration of your questionnaires, etc., survey, etc., in order to ensure that the questionnaire means the same thing to the people to whom it is administered. Sometimes the word used may not be understood the same way by the people who are being administered by that. So that might create some problem which you might not have foreseen. To ensure that practically also there is no problem, you might go for a pilot study. You will administer that to a few people and look at their responses, so that you will understand whether actual administration and the administration of questionnaire will create any other trouble, which is unanticipated trouble or not. For that purpose, you might go for a preliminary pilot study. That could be one of the reasons. Or your research might depend on some of the basic preliminary things you have already found. Then you will construct on that. So there are different ways in which you might go for a research. Expected outcomes. You may not say yes or no, but you will say that this is a question I'm posing, and these are the different possible answers I might end up with. References, appendices like interview questions, observational forms, timeline, proposed budget, etc. So let us look at the format of a qualitative constructive. So please note, if you are going deep into this, even in qualitative, we have different sub-methods, constructive and constructivist method, you have ethnological method, etc. So those will be different. Case study method is another method. So for each of these, your research design can differ. I'm just communicating that, but we may not be going to that. So that is what. And then each of these, literature review, etc. Then so when it comes to quantitative study, the research design will look like this. Statement of the problem, issue, existing literature about the problem, deficiencies in the literature, relevance of the studies for the audience. That will be the same. Purpose of the study, research questions and hypotheses. In a qualitative research, you might not always require a hypothesis. You might not. But in a quantitative study, you will frame a hypothesis and to test it, because you are testing something which is already known, in a sense, at least tentatively known. And theoretical perspective also you'll speak about. Review of literature, methods, type of research design, population, sample and participants, data collection instruments, variables and materials, data analysis procedure. So here, when it comes to quantitative research, one major point, perhaps to me, the most important point that makes a distinction is whether you are trying to understand or verify, rather than understanding, trying to verify the relation between two variables. You have one variable called hundis in the in temples, mosques, and churches, and that is an independent variable, and you are trying to understand the relation that has got with the psychology of the citizens. So you have two variables here. You are trying to understand the relation between these two variables. Either you would say, yes, temples, churches, and mosques, and the approach is there, is creating a bribery psychology in the citizens. You might say yes. You might not say, you might say no. You will either approve, justify the tentative statement, which is called as hypothesis, or you would say no, there is no correlation between these two. Anyway, you are studying about, you are verifying the correlation between the variables and materials. There are, of course, ethical issues, preliminary studies and pilot studies, appendices, etc., etc. So the major difference is when you are invariably framing a hypothesis and you are studying the relation between two variables, then it is quantitative. Otherwise, if you're just asking questions and you're trying to get answers for that, this could be qualitative. And MISS method, of course, you'll be mixing both these of two. You will have more than one questions, and in certain parts you will have qualitative approach. In certain parts you might have quantitative approach, or sometimes you may have concurrent approach also. Yeah, look at the methods. It is in the method that you might find the difference. Definition of mixed methods, type of design, its definition, challenges using design and how they will be addressed, examples of this design, reference and inclusion of visual diagram, quantitative data collection, quantitative data analysis, qualitative data collection, qualitative data analysis, mixed method data analysis procedures, validity approaches. Okay. Yeah, there are writings about even writing habits, ethical issues. The ethical issues in qualitative research and quantitative research will be different. Ethical issues can arise even in selecting a sample. If your sample is not representative, that could be considered as something which will affect the validity of your finding. Okay, all those are now. There could be different approaches, a difference in approach when it comes to introduction writing. Introduction is something which opens the research to the expected audience. So the writing introduction is one of the most important aspects. And introduction in the first paragraph, introduction, what should be the approach, and there could be a difference in qualitative and quantitative things. Here I'm the purpose statement. After writing introduction, it should be properly writing a purpose statement. Many times, very many of these are not found in dissertations and theses. Sometimes even in PhD thesis, these things might not be found. And how you are stating the purpose of your research, the way in which you state the purpose of research in a qualitative research is different from the way in which you write. So if you are telling the audience, your expected audience, the people who are expected to read this, if you're telling them you are just trying to identify, you are just trying to verify an already existing theory, this will definitely be a quantitative. Unless you are aware this is approach, your statement of your statement, your purpose statement will not be an appropriate purpose statement. Whereas if your purpose statement says that you are trying to your approach, your purpose is to build something which is not known already, that will be a qualitative approach. If you're both different, and there are certain format for this also. Research questions and hypothesis. Yeah, I think these questions will have to be considered by us. So this will be very useful for the purpose of understanding quantitative and qualitative. Is the purpose of the survey stated? If it is a survey, it is likely to be quantitative. Are the reasons for choosing the design mentioned? Is the nature of survey identified? Is the population and its size mentioned? Will the population be stratified? Random sampling, stratified random sampling, there are different methods. If so, how? How many people will be in the sample? On what basis was the size chosen? What will be the procedure for sampling these individuals? Random, non-random, snowballing. You have understood different methods, I think, in the afternoon session yesterday. What are the content areas addressed in the survey? The scales. What procedure will be used to pilot or field test the survey? What's the timeline for administering the survey? Because certain things may not remain the same. Even otherwise, timeline is an important consideration, a time within which you will be conducting this particular study. What are the variables in the study? If you're talking about variables, this is quantitative. How do these variables cross-reference with the research questions and items on the survey? And likewise, you have questions in the qualitative also. I think we can just read it through. Are the basic characteristics of qualitative studies mentioned? Is a specific type of qualitative design to be used in the study mentioned? Because as I said, even in qualitative, you have different sub-approaches. Narrative, case study approach. There are different approaches. And so if you're an expert in this, you will be able to identify even the sub-approaches that is required for the purpose of conducting your research. Is the history of and application for the design mentioned? Does the reader gain an understanding of the researcher's role in the study? Is the purpose sampling strategy for sites and individuals identified? Are the specific forms of data collection mentioned and a rationale given for their use? Are the procedures for recording information during the data collection detailed? Are the data analysis steps identified? So in a quantitative study, data analysis will be based on statistical tools, whereas that will not be the approach in qualitative study. Yeah, I'll just share the characteristics of qualitative research. Basic characteristics. It's conducted in a natural setting. Natural setting would mean you are going to the society, you are studying things in the society as it is. In a natural setting, it is not a controlled setting. That is the understanding you should have. In an experimental laboratory situations, you will keep all other things constant, and you will try to understand the relation between two variables, all other things being equal and constant. So you learn about the relation of two variables. Researcher as key instrument, because if it is a qualitative study, you are looking at words, not numbers, then definitely researcher has a major role. Multiple source of data. Multiple source of data. You will collect information from people. You will have more, other sources also. And inductive and deductive data analysis, and it will be predominantly inductive. And participants meaning. See, for example, if you consider the question, the purpose of reservation. In order to arrive at a conclusion that a reservation has an additional purpose, you will have to go to the participants and try to understand the purpose that is attached, imputed by the participants to that. Emergent design, reflectivity, holistic account, in the sense that you will not be selecting a particular aspect from the whole thing. How will we make sense of it? See, if you are asking the question whether the reservation is serving the purpose of elevating the backward classes or socially backward classes, you are taking a particular aspect from the whole theory of reservation. Whereas if you have to reconsider the theory relating to reservation, you'll have to consider all existing dimensions of reservation. Then only you can add a new dimension. Or if you're coming out with a new theory, then you'll have to consider the whole area of study, and then only you can reach a particular theory or restate the theory. Whereas if you're trying to verify it quantitatively, you'll take a particular point, particular aspect only, and you'll study about it. Mixed method, and each of these method has got, yeah. Of course, I would say that we have not covered the entire thing, but a few things are to be kept in mind. A few things to be understood and to be kept in mind are, there are mainly three aspects to be considered while deciding the nature of research design. Research design is nothing but the planning, how you plan your research study to be conducted, your perspective about the study, and the subject matter of the study. To draw an analogy, we give the example of an apple. That may not be a very good example, but that will be a very good example for understanding the approach. You can talk about reservation, you can talk about uniform civil code, you can talk about spatial theory and information technology, you can speak about mens rea in criminal law, you can talk about mens rea in civil law, Is there a mental element in civil law? Although any of these are law-related questions. And our approach will be more akin to identifiable with social science research. And there are 3 or 4 aspects to be considered. The first one is, what is your view about this? In what paradigm, in what perspective do you view the subject matter? And it will depend on the title or the research question also. You are going to study it in a quantitative way. Your approach could be either quantitative or qualitative. So it depends on your view and also nature of subject matter. Certain subject matters could be studied both inductively and both qualitatively and quantitatively. But certain subject matters, it will depend on the nature of the subject matter. So one, the nature of subject matter, your view as the subject matter, the paradigm view or the world view. Once these 2 things are decided, then other things will follow. Your strategy will be controlled by your holistic view, your world view, or your paradigm perspective. Once that's more specific. Once that's also set, then you'll have to adopt the specific methods. You'll have to adopt the specific methods for the purpose of conducting research. Whether it is survey, whether it's experiment, or whether it is anything else. If it is survey and experiment, it is quantitative. If you're going for a qualitative approach, you have other different tools. So once the 3 or 4 points, the nature of subject matter, your view about the subject matter, your strategy and method are decided, then you will come out with a research design. So research design will speak about the research questions or hypothesis you have, the scope of the study, the limitations of the study, the assumptions about the study, and the methods that is used. That's also very important. The methods that's used, and the size of the sample collection methods, and the way in which it's approved, way in which it is administered, and the way in which it is analyzed. If it is statistical method, then it is quantitative. Then you'll have to reach some conclusions. You'll have to have an appendix for that. You'll have to have you'll have the timeline for that. You'll have to have an understanding about statements about the funding that is available. Because if it's a large study, you'll definitely require people and also funds. So if there's a funding agency and how big is your fund, then accordingly you can have a larger study and more people can be devised and more people can be brought into service. So your research design, your research planning will depend on the time that is available to you, the fund that is available to you, the subject matter you select, your view about the subject matter, and accordingly you will decide the strategies that is required, and then you will specifically assess, specifically determine the method that are being used, and then you will speak about these things: introduction, scope of the study, limitations of the study, assumptions of the study, research questions and hypothesis, sub questions that also will be there. Then, of course, chapterization and these things can also be included, and then timeline, funding, all those. I think this sheds some lights on the approaches to be adopted in qualitative and quantitative study, and also mixed method of study. And mixed method of study, mixed method of study can be adopted if you have both qualitative and quantitative aspects to be included in this. It could be either starting with qualitative then going to quantitative, or it could be starting with qualitative then going to quantitative. Sequential study, you call it as mixed sequential study, or it could be concurrent. Both qualitative and quantitative are used throughout the study. So that could be concurrent mixed method. And you will be able to adopt all these only when you have the time required for that, you have the funding required for that, and also you have the proper knowledge about it. Only an expert can cook. Only an expert can write a novel. Only a person who knows about it can come out with a nutritional value assessment. So these are things, and I would say that one of the best material, wherever I went in search of the materials for research design, it is the book of Creswell. Creswell's book on qualitative, quantitative, research design and mixed methods. You have third edition. Many of these editions are available online in Google. If you Google it, you might get it. But it bit bulky, may not be that very bulky, but very specific. They've got all these details here. And but please note, you may have to systematically read and
Sir, sorry, sir, your microphone is mute. It's a technical error. Sorry, sir.
That's okay, no problem. So I was speaking about one of the best materials I've got when it comes to the study of research design, and I felt that the best material, which is freely available also for researchers, is Creswell's book on qualitative, quantitative, and mixed method research design. Creswell's book on Creswell, Creswell, yeah. Creswell's material on research design. And please, I should acknowledge the intellectual property. Whatever I talked was mainly based on the material that is available. But I found the similar ideas. Of course, the ideas of reservation, etc., were my own adaptation or my own contribution to that. Of course, I added myself to this, but major ideas were borrowed from that. But I find similar ideas because you are speaking about a commonly available idea, but the more systematic way it is available in Creswell's book. So I would say I would recommend that book to all the researchers if you're trying to understand the research design. And please do understand, if you spend more and more time in research design, and you will be more and more comfortable with your research, because you will have a proper plan of action. You know what to do and how to do, when to do, what to do, how to do, and when to do, if you have a proper research design. But that will be available only if you are that can be developed. A proper research design can be developed only if you have the proper understanding about the research methods, and also a proper understanding about your area of research, the subject matter of research, and also the methodology that can be adopted. Unless you know how to use a knife, you can cut it. You can cut a material with that. Unless you know how to use a mixer grinder, you can't use it. First of all, you should know that there is something called mixer grinder, and you should also know how to use it. Likewise, you should know that there is some method called survey method. Then you should also know how to prepare a questionnaire, and what are the different possibilities in a questionnaire. So only a person with this knowledge will decide whether to use a questionnaire in a particular way, in an open-ended way, or in a closed-ended way, or semi-structured way. So a knowledge about these things are of paramount importance. Then only you will have a proper, very useful research design, and then that will make your research easy, and that will make your research meaningful also. Otherwise, your findings may be flawed findings. So please to understand this, and I wish you all the very best. If you have questions with regard to that, I'll try to respond to that. In a way, I would say that we did not cover the entire thing, I think, but I could give you shed some light on this particular area for further reading and development. I would say that, because I don't think it's possible for us to cover this at one go in 2 hours, the subject called research design in both qualitative and quantitative, and also mixed method. So all the best to you. Do further reading and develop this further. And thank you for listening to me. And if you have any questions, I'll respond to that. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
That it's very elaborative in research design. Many things, it's very new terminologies, new. It's a very elaborative session, actually, lecture. But one thing I want to know about it: if we are going for a field study, whether it is that qualitative, that collecting the data. Actually, I am collecting data from platform drivers regarding the employment status and decent work. In that case, is it that we have to take the help of the statistics person or statistician right from the beginning of while preparing the questionnaire for collecting the data, or can we do by ourselves without
Ma'am,
the software is there?
Yeah, that will depend. My response to that will revolve around two aspects. One, and the first and foremost, whether you are going for a quantitative study or your research design or research approach is quantitative or not. Only when if it is quantitative, you need to go for a statistical thing. But other, whenever statistics things are involved, it will be quantitative. Whether your research approach, whether you should have decided the research approach, and if your research approach and the nature of subject matter is quantitative, then you'll have to go for statistical thing. And whether in fact you should take the help of a statistician, or can you do it yourself, again will depend on our expertise. If you are familiar with the statistical methods, then we can. It's always better to undertake the study ourselves. But we should ensure that we know about it and we can use the tool very properly.
That is true.
And so it depends on two things: the nature of study and also our level of understanding about the method.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions, please? So I think I can.
Hello, sir, am I audible?
You are.
Good afternoon, everyone. Here, I am entrusted with the duty of delivering the vote of thanks. Today, in the third day of the one-week online faculty development program on research and pedagogy in the changing era, we had a wonderful session on research design in qualitative and quantitative legal research by Dr. Lawwellman, Professor, Government Law College, Calicut. The entire session was insightful, permeated with a deep understanding of the importance of research design in qualitative and quantitative legal research and how it can benefit the legal profession. The session gave us great insights on not only about the qualitative and quantitative methods, but also regarding the mixed method in research. And the illustration with relevant and real life scenarios made the session very much interesting. And the interaction from the participants confirmed the same. So on behalf of LSL Law College, from the innermost recess of my heart, I thank Dr. Lawwellman for such an informative and engaging session. Next, let me express my sincere gratitude to all the conveners and the participants who are present here. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for this, and thank you for the invitation and opportunity to interact with. So with your permission, I'll leave the meeting. Thank you.
Now the participants can leave the meeting and we can join by 1:30. Thank you.